And then a little bit about the Center for Disability Empowerment. We are a nonprofit organization that supports all people of all ages with any disability. And we do this primarily through our 5 core services that we are federally mandated to provide as a Center for Independent Living. Those of which are information and referral, independent living skills training, advocacy, peer support, and transition services. Now, there are 2 components to that transition services. There is the nursing home transitions, of which Deb, tonight's host, is the coordinator for, and youth transition, of which I am the coordinator for. And with that, I turn it over to tonight's host, Deb Peterman.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We are going to have Barbara Sapharas, one of my favorite presenters. I think you'll find the information tonight refreshing. We want you to put your pain and all those hard stuff things related to disability at the door and come and get refreshed and feel empowered with some of the information we're sharing tonight. So I want to introduce Barbara Sapharas. First of all, she is an amazing person. She's also a sibling. She mentors me a lot. She actually mentors many people in a variety of ways, all for the encouragement for person-centered planning. And so Barbara's been, she's been everything. And I pulled up her resume. But she's a mentor trainer with the learning community for person-centered planning practices, she's an Ohio ambassador for charting the life course. She's a national team member for charting the life course with the University of Missouri, Kansas City, UMKC. She's a coach facilitator charting the life course with the University of Missouri, Kansas City, UMKC. She's a sibling and an amazing friend of mine. So I hope tonight you will feel empowered and that what tools you take home tonight, you will share with your friends. So Barbara, I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you. You are so kind and so gracious. I appreciate the introduction. But even more, I appreciate our friendship. And as you said, as we were getting ready, we've never met in person because of the pandemic, which is so incredible because we've interacted so much this past year and shared so much and learned with each other. So thank you so much for the opportunity to also share this evening. As Deb said, my name is Barb Sapharas, and I'm going to ask you as I start, if you could type in the chat box your relationship to somebody with a disability, if you're a parent or a sibling or a grandparent or whatever, and the age of your family member, so that as I share some information and some examples, I can hopefully make them more appropriate for those of you that are with us tonight. As Deb said, I am a family member. I am a sister, a sibling. The other thing is, if you have a question, please pose it in the chat box, and I will try to look at chat, or if Deb or Jamie see a question, they will alert me to check the chat.
I got you, Barbara.
Yes?
Oh, I'm just saying, I got you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you. So if you could type again the age of your loved one, that would be very helpful. I've worked in the field for IDD for over 45 years. I cannot believe that, but in a variety of roles. I started out subbing as a direct support professional. I'm trained as a speech language pathologist. I worked as a service coordinator. And doing staff training and some other roles. But most importantly, my life experience comes from being Jim and Nick's big sister. My brother Nick was 4 years younger than me, and he was diagnosed when he was 6 months old, and I was 4 just before my 5th birthday and just before I went into kindergarten. Jim, in his 30s, was diagnosed, or was in an accident, I'm sorry, and it impacted his ability to earn a living and to get through his day. And in his 50s, he was diagnosed with a very, very rare disease that only 100 people in the United States had. No known cause, no known cure, no known treatment. So I had a brother with a developmental disabilities and also a brother with an acquired disability. And thank you for typing in chat the age ranges. So, so far young adults is what I'm seeing. Those of you are related to people who are young adults.
Yep, we've got here a sibling who is deceased, SSA for 30 people. My nephew also has autism, he's 21. Mother of 2 15-year-old twins with Down syndrome.
Okay.
A son who has a disability, he is 21 years old. Mother, son 26 next month, grandma, his daughter 3 next month, both autism.
Okay. Okay. So 3 is the youngest, 26 is the oldest.
That's what I'm seeing here. Yes.
Thanks, Jamie. I appreciate it. So this presentation is part of a grant from the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, and I contract with the Nisonger Center at The Ohio State University. So let me tell you a little bit about charting the life course. Tonight, I really want to focus on how important it is for families to have a vision for their loved one, what kind of life they want them to have, not the services, but the life. I'm going to talk about the Charting the Life course domains because I think they really help families think about what can that life look like? What do I need to consider? We'll talk about the concept of anticipatory guidance, and I will give you some tools today that you can use to plan for a good life, whether you are a professional or a family member. It doesn't matter. So Charting the Life course is a framework and set of tools that was developed by and for people with disabilities and their families. And quite honestly, it is the only person-centered approach that I know of. And I've been a person-centered trainer for 24 years. It is the only one I know of that was developed by and for people with disabilities. People say that they are logical, they are easy to use, the iconography supports your thinking and reasoning about them. And so I hope by the end of the evening, you'll find some use that you can apply to support either the person you love or if you're paid, people that you support. Ohio is part of a national community of practice. And that's very exciting, I think, because we get to learn from people in 26 states what they're doing with Charting the Life course, and we get to share with them what we're doing in Ohio. So there's a lot of mutual sharing and learning and support across the country. What we hope in Ohio is that families and people with lived experience use Charting the Life course to think about, organize their thoughts about a good life and plan towards a good life. We hope that professionals value this information from families and people with lived experience and use Charting the Life course to support and empower them. What we don't want is people to say, oh gosh, here's another form I've got to fill out, or that it's done without the family or the person. It is not something done by professionals. It's something done with people and families. So in Ohio, we're trying to get information out to everyone. people with lived experience, families, professionals across multiple systems. I've shared information with people from the mental health system, early intervention, school staff, county board staff, oh gosh, resident providers of day services, residential services, anybody. We want to share this with everybody. In Ohio, we have a community of practice, and we hope you sign up. We share resources, we share opportunities to learn more information, and we really want to hear your stories of how you've used Charting the Life course to support and empower people. So in Charting the Life course, our core concept is we believe that all people, everybody, all people and their families have the right to live, love, work, play, learn, and pursue their life aspirations in their community. We want to see good life outcomes for everybody. For the individual, we want them to have the civil right of self-determination. And that does not just mean making choices, it means having control over decisions that affect their lives. So if some of you say, yes, but my family member can't make decisions, maybe they can make simple decisions, but not complex. Remember that we all don't make decisions in isolations. We talk to people that we love, that we trust. And so that's the same for the person with a disability. They can talk to people, they can have that civil right of self-determination by doing what we all do, and that is talk to others and get their support. My brother, I never was Nick's guardian because I really believed he could make his own decisions. However, when he had to make a decision, he would always talk to me. He would tell his team, I want to talk to my sister. So he didn't do it by himself, just like none of us do. The other thing we want to see is interdependence. And I think this is so important for families to remember. We are told throughout our loved one's life that they need to be independent. And I don't even know what that means because none of us is independent. I retired 8 years ago and I looked ahead. I looked at some anticipatory guidance and said, when I retire, do I want this house with a big yard? And I didn't. I am interdependent, just like all of us are. I don't cut my grass. I don't shovel my snow. I live in Northeast Ohio in the snow belt. I don't make my clothes. I don't grow my food. I am not independent. I am interdependent. I depend on other people, and we all do. None of us is independent. But we use money to get what we cannot do ourselves for ourselves. So we want people to have that civil right of self-determination, be interdependent, and be included in all aspects of their community life. We want families to be supported in ways that recognize their strengths and resilience so that they can turn around and support the people they love. And I'm sure you've all heard about person-centered thinking, person-centered planning. It's been mandated for over 25 years. It's not a new topic. It's in medical literature. It's in educational school. It's in DD services. It's in mental health. But what person-centered thinking, the outcome is that people have positive control over the life they want, that they're recognized and valued for their contributions to their communities, and they're supported by people both paid and unpaid. So in other words, we want people to get better lives, not just better paper. So I guess at this point, let me ask you to type in the chat, how long are your plans? How long, if you've got a family member with an IFSP, individual family service plan, how long, how many pages is that? How long is your IEP? How long is your ISP if you receive services from a county board? Just type in the chat, how many pages? Because what we're talking about is not the paper, we're talking about people getting better lives. So there are guiding principles in charting the life course, and charting the life course is really about a different way of thinking. It's having different conversations. It's encouraging high expectations. So we never want to say to somebody, no, you can't. No, you'll never be able to. So in my career, I've had people tell me they want to be a pilot. And people were like, oh, you can't be a pilot. You don't even know numbers. You didn't even go to high school. You don't have a diploma. But when we asked him, what is it about a pilot that you think is so cool? Why do you want to be a pilot? Tell me more about being a pilot. And what he shared was that his dad was a pilot. And when he was a small child, he was institutionalized, but he remembers going to the airport and waving to his dad when he flew away and also when he came back. And so his job coach said, well, there's a local airport, a county airport in our county. Let's go out and see if there's any jobs. And they went out and they talked to the manager who said, no, no, no. But about a month later, he called the job coach and said, I have a job, it's for cleaning. And he asked the young man, do you want to go and see about this job? And he said, yes. He got the job. The pilots liked him. He was a nice guy, friendly, asked them how they were doing, talked to them, when are you coming back? Oh, I'll be here, or I won't be here. I'll see you next time. And the pilots took him up in their planes. So no, he didn't become a pilot, but he was around pilots and had pilots who were friends. And we would never know that would be a good fit if we didn't listen to those dreams of his. What charting the life course is not is just about tools. And it's not a program, so nobody should ever say, I do charting the life course. But it can be used with anyone across ages and abilities. So I've seen families use charting the life course for twins under a year old. And I've seen families use it with their 95-year-old mother having dementia who can no longer tell her 4 adult children what she wants. And the 4 adult children are reflecting on what their mother did in her life, what was important to her to make sure that the end of her life still has those things in her life, even though she cannot tell them. So just as with any person-centered approach, we get the information from the person, from their words, from their actions, and from the people who know them the best. Family, and some people we know do not have blood relatives, but they may have staff who have known them for a long time. There are 8 guiding principles in charting the life course. First of all, it's for everybody, without disability, all ages, all abilities. We recognize that people exist in the context of their family, and anything that happens to anyone in the family affects the whole family unit. We know that it's important to have a vision or a trajectory towards a good life across all life stages, from prenatal to aging. And we recognize that everybody needs to have dreams or visions or outcomes, and the importance of having experiences to identify your outcomes. You know, think about how you chose your job. What experiences did you have that you said, oh no, I never want to do this again, or yes, I want to pursue this path? So think about the impact of experiences on your vision and your decisions. In charting the life course, we talk about life domains, and there are 6 of them. We don't talk about skill areas. So not how important skill development is, but how we talk about quality of life. And I'm going to take just a minute to look at the length of your ISPs, and oh my God, 80 page. Oh my goodness, that's a mortgage. Who reads it? 30 pages. Oh Lord. Oh my goodness. Huge books of paperwork. Yes. I still have files for Nick. I just don't know what to do with them. Oh my goodness, 20 pages long. Oh my gosh. You know, we'll talk more about quality versus and quantity. So let's talk, we'll talk about life domains. Thank you for typing those numbers. I appreciate it. We'll talk about families saying they need 3 buckets of support and integrated supports, not just looking at what's in the system, but in 5 different areas. And also, we know that it is necessary that people with disabilities and their family members are part of decision-making related to policy and systems. Not that they review things, but they are actually there when the changes are being discussed and decided on. So I can't talk about families without talking about siblings. And just a reminder that a lot of times siblings are not only taking care of or supporting their brother or sister, but they may also be taking care of their own children and maybe even supporting aging parents. So often siblings, we call ourselves the club sandwich generation because we're kind of straddling 3 generations. And just to mention that there is an international nonprofit called the Sibling Leadership Network. I'm a former chair of that nonprofit. I belong to the Sibling Leadership Network. It is an awesome group, and it has a closed Facebook page for adults who have brothers and sisters with any disabilities. And there's about 5,000 siblings on there. I hope that if you have children, in addition to the children with disabilities, that you look at the Sibling Leadership Network page and you look at there are resources for siblings and also ways for siblings to connect. And usually it's adults, but there's also sib shops and other programs and ways that siblings can connect with each other. So we know that everybody exists within the context of family, whether that family is biological or chosen. And family is always defined by each of us. So you may have family dinners where you include very close friends, or maybe you grew up like I did in a very ethnic culture. I'm Greek American, and I call people aunt and uncle who are not related to me at all. But I better call them aunt and uncle because that is the way we see them and the way we treat them. I talked about the 3 buckets. So when families were developing, when we had this large meeting at Wingspread and asked families, what do you need? What would be helpful? They identified needs in 3 buckets of support. One is the blue bucket, information. Tell me about the disability. What will this mean? What information do I need to know so I can get through my day? In the mustardy colored bucket, what are the goods and services out there? Not just the service systems, but where are the good doctors? Where are the daycare centers? What's available in my community for everybody? How do I do financial planning? And then in the middle, families identified and people with lived experience said, we really need to talk to other people who have kind of had similar experiences. So how can we network with other families or other people with lived experience? So the Department of Developmental Disabilities, if you go to their webpage, which is dodd.ohio.gov, you will see a tab for families. And if you click on there, there's ways that you can connect with other families virtually. And there are closed Facebook groups where families can talk with each other and be quite honest. And you see questions like, who knows a good provider in the Franklin County area? Or has anybody ever worked with this agency? What did you think about them? And it's a good way to get unbiased feedback, because we can't always get it from the professionals because they have to be careful what they say. So maybe it isn't unbiased, but you can get some real feedback. So we talked about 10 pages, 10 to 80 pages of plans. And I'm going to talk about the Charting the Life Course portfolio, which is only 4 pages long. And it's made up of 3 different Charting the Life Course tools that really help people. I've used this with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people with disabilities, young adults and adults with disabilities, for them to help them organize and think about, what is it that you want? What do you want help with? What do you want to share with your team? So the first thing we need to consider, let me go back to the 8 to 80 pages long. I asked that question because as I talk about these tools and the fact that they are 1 page each, or one of them is 2 pages long, people will read 1 piece of paper or 4 sheets of paper. Not too many people are going to read 80. And before the pandemic, I was doing an in-person seminar training with a group of parents. And I asked them the question I always ask: how long is your ISP? And one mother said 3 hours last Thursday that I'll never get back in my life. And I just looked at her because I was expecting page numbers. And one of the other mothers in the group said, you were expecting pages. She's telling you how many hours. And then everybody started telling me how many hours their ISP meeting was, or IEP meeting. And it just was, people were just venting about, why does it take so long? Why does it have to be so long? And the mother who said hers was 3 hours long said, I don't know why it's 3 hours long. And I won't tell you who it was, but I will tell you that both she and her husband are well-known advocates in the state, both paid and unpaid. And so they know the law, they know the rules. And she said, why did it take 3 hours? Our county board has known my daughter for over 20 years. She lives with us. So it's not like she's got 24/7 staff. She just has a few services. And she said, why did it take 3 hours? So hopefully as we go through the portfolio, I'll be able to give you some resources that you can use to organize your thoughts within 4 pages. First thing I want to remind us all is the power of words we use. We know that the words we use convey our values and beliefs. So when we talk about the people we love that have disabilities, what words do we use? Usually when I ask families, they tell me, I have a so-and-so year-old brother, sister, son, daughter, grandchild who has Down syndrome, is on the spectrum, lives with my parents, and goes to this day program. And I say, thank you very much. You just told me what made them eligible for services, but who are they? Family members, we have taught you as professionals how to describe the people you love in words that will get them help. But I want us to think about talking about the people we love as human beings. If someone introduced me as a 67-year-old with bifocals, a little overweight, pretty feisty and stubborn, I would be like, and that'll be the last time I spend any time with you. So let's think about how we talk about people. Do we talk about them as being needy, or do we talk about them as being valued and contributing? Do we expect them to be independent and then make the judgments about them, or do we expect them to be interdependent? And are we trying to communicate their needs or the support that they need? So think about the words that we use and what they communicate to other people. The first page of the person-centered portfolio, the Charting the Life Course portfolio, is called a one-page person-centered description. And we want to stop talking about the person and the disability and start talking about them as a human being. So there's 3 sections. The first one is, what do people like and admire about you? Second one is, what's important to you? And like and admire is really about qualities, not what the person does, but who they are. I will tell you that working with adults with disabilities, when I ask them, what do people like about you? They typically all answer the same word, I'm nice. And I think, isn't that sad that that's the only quality they can self-identify? So I've given you a list, and think about it. What do we love about the people that are in our families that also happen to have a disability? The second section is what's important to the person. And what we want to consider are 8 areas, the people that are close to them, who are the close relationships. And don't just write family and friends, because we don't like everyone in our family the same. So who really is important to them? Do they have a favorite sibling? One set of parents who had, at the time they were doing this, their twins were under a year old, and they very clearly described that for one twin, mom was important to him. And for the other twin, dad was important to him. And they laughed about it because they said, John, I'm important to John, but Sam over here couldn't care less if I'm in the room or not. But the garage door goes up and he knows dad's coming home and he's yelling for him. So it's not just family and friends, but who? Rituals and routines. Think about it. What rituals and routines? We all have rituals and routines. What's important to your son or daughter or other relative? Is it watching something on TV? Is it coming home from school or day program and doing something right away to decompress? Things to do, places to go. Rhythm and pace. Are they people who just get up and go, or do they need time to get up? I had 2 nieces. One of them would sit straight up in bed and be like, hi, Auntie Barbie, what are we doing today? And she would be going. The other one, she needed a good 30 to 45 minutes to get out of bed. And so you knew you got to wake her up first and give her lots of time. Status and control. A lot of people with disabilities say their technology is status and control. Keys to their own place, an ID badge, a job they like, a title at their job. Things to have, probably for all of us, our smartphones are important to us, and we probably don't leave the house without them. What gives the person purpose and meaning, and then their culture and identity. And then how to best support. This is not a list of deficits or needs. It's a list of what other people need to do. So one young lady who has a job said, when you teach me something new, tell me, show me, watch me, and then tell me how I'm doing. One mother of a young boy, I think he was 7 or 8, said, what you need to do to support him is remind him to wear his headphones in a noisy place. One mother of a young child said, don't tell him what to do, give him at least 2 choices. Do you want to do this or this? Now you decide the choices, but don't tell him you need to, because that phrasing will set him off. So what do people need to do? So we have 8 people on the in the 8 people. Okay. So why, Jamie, can you put us into breakout rooms as soon as I give people directions? I want you to introduce yourself and tell us about your loved one. And this is the framework. So write some notes. I want you to introduce, this is how I would introduce myself. I would say, hi, my name is Barb. My brother's name is Nick. And what we love about him is he was ornery, but he also was honest and loyal. Some things that were important to him were chatting with me every night, our Greek culture and religion, and being able to listen to his very loud music. And what do others need to do? They need to feed him with a teaspoon. They need to put him in bed on his stomach with a pillow between his knees. So write some notes down. We're only going to put you in the breakout rooms for 4 minutes. So you have a minute to introduce your loved one. Do it quickly, and we will. You can do it now, Jamie. You can put us in breakouts. Thank you, Jamie.
Barbara, I'm so sorry. I'm looking at the settings here and I do not have the breakouts enabled for
Oh,
this webinar. What I can do is I can ask everybody to turn on their video. I can go ahead and allow that in just a second.
Okay.
Could we do it as a group? Would you be okay with that?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Jamie. So if you all think about it, now you have even extra time. Think about how you would introduce your loved one. And I may not ask everybody, I may just ask for volunteers, but if you could put your video on, that would be great. I would appreciate it. Can somebody volunteer to unmute? Can they unmute themselves, Jamie?
Whoops, sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. They should be able to now. I promoted them all to panelists, so they should be able to unmute themselves.
Okay, so will someone volunteer to introduce your loved one in 3 or 4 sentences? You can unmute and just share. Please.
I'll go first. My name is Lisa Leslie. I'm an SSA for Clark County, but I also have a nephew who has autism. Qualities about him, he loves to draw and he loves art.
So he's artistic.
And he has this amazing ability to understand facts about anything in the entertainment industry, which just totally blows my mind because he'll ask me random things and I'm like, Michael, I have no idea. And that is his way of starting conversations with people, is just to ask them questions like, did you know about this? Or did you know about that? And that is his way of being social. Okay. And talking with people. Let's see, other things.
What's important to him? And then if I were to meet him, what should I do, say, or not say to support him?
If you ask him any questions about, the Power Rangers or Disney, that is a good way to have great conversations with him. It's kind of an icebreaker.
Awesome.
Supporting him, I would say, maybe when he gets a little stressed, he gets kind of the dazed look, or he might walk away from a situation instead of knowing how to ask the right questions to things. And depends on mom a lot, and I'm trying to help my sister out a lot, and you know, we're just bashing heads about, you know, what is a good life and what does it look
Yes,
like. And
yes.
so I wish she was kind of here so she can hear this too.
Oh, I wish so too. So Lisa, if he gets that dazed look and walks away, what should I do? Should I just let him go? Is there
Mhm.
something I should say? And I'm pushing you because if we write these how to best support me in ways that tell me who doesn't know him what to do, we are giving any caregiver the strategies to be successful and make him feel good.
I think pulling him aside, maybe, so he's not, doesn't feel embarrassed or, and just, I think for Mike, you have to kind of help prepare him before he goes into a situation. I think preparation is key for him. It makes him feel more confident that he can ask the right questions or do things, so he feels like he has the control to, or the power to do something. So I think prepping him, like when you go to the store, like, okay, this is our list. And, you know, if you get confused, who could you ask? Well, you know, well, then if he doesn't know, to say, well, you ask somebody who has a name tag on or has the employee smock, or, and just giving him the tools to be there and know what questions to ask, like where's the laundry soap, or
Awesome.
where's the movies. And so I think he just needs a lot of encouragement to ask those questions. I think he's very capable. I wish my sister would let him do a little bit more on his own and be,
Awesome.
he's pretty incredible kid, and he's got a lot to offer. So
Thank you, Lisa. So think about if, you know, if we were to meet her nephew, some things that are important to him are Disney, talking about Power Rangers, being prepared for situations. So what do we need to do if he gets a glazed look and walks away? Maybe go up to him and talk to him in private. We need to prepare him before he goes into a situation, and maybe remind him of things he can do. So think about trying to capture these things in bullets and putting them on a one-page person-centered description. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing.
you're welcome.
Thanks, I appreciate it. So let me show you Nix. And let me just remind you, this is one page. And the reason we want it to be one page is people will read one page. If they need to know more, they'll read the ISP or the IEP. But look at what's great things about him. Oh, first of all, it doesn't say Nick Sapharas. Nowhere does it tell you his disability. This is not about his disability. It's about who Nick was. And you see, number one is he was ornery. And that is the first word out of my mother's mouth whenever she talks about Nick. You know, your brother Nick, he's ornery. He was ornery. Yeah, I know that. Thanks, Mom. Important too, you see that I listed relationships, me, where to go, family events. The bottom one, going to the bar and getting his 7-7 and watching the Indians game. His culture and identity. How to best support, it's in quotes because he said these things. So anybody that's going to work with him will know how to feed him. One sentence. How to put him in bed. One sentence. What foods to avoid. One sentence. And so all this information that's in our heads, let's make it easily available to people that are providing the support so they know what to do and how to do it. So you can, I like people to use a Word doc. Don't use the template, but use a Word doc because you see, I put a photo of Nick on there. I think it's more powerful to see a photo of someone too. I tell families, do this, keep multiple copies. Make sure you put one where it can be found. Some people put it on the fridge. Some adults with disabilities have told me they post it on their wall or put it in a frame. And when new staff come in their apartment or house, they tell them, go read my one-page description before you work with me. And it's quick information at a glance. This is what you need to, for some people, they'll put what's important to me is you show up on time, or you call me if you're going to be late. So it's written for a specific purpose. This past year, unfortunately, we have seen the need to support families to write one-page descriptions in case people were hospitalized. Again, several copies, whether you keep a bedside vigil if someone is hospitalized or not, ask that it be placed above the bed so that anybody walking in the room sees it. I learned the hard way. I gave it to the nurse in charge and she put it in Nick's folder and no one ever saw it. So that's why I tell people, put it above the bed in a plastic sheet protector. And then think about what people in the hospital would need to know. So they don't need to know all the other stuff, but what's relative to the hospital? Having a cell phone, having it charged, tell me what you're doing, introduce yourself. Make sure the TV is on because I can't turn it on or whatever it is. How to best support, show them how to use the call button, how to position him. We learned the hard way. We had to tell them, put him on his stomach. If he starts getting anxious, what to do, call somebody, how to make sure they take their medication. And if I want to talk to somebody, who to contact and their phone number. Also how they express pain. My brother never felt pain on his right side. So doctors and nurses would come in and say, Nick, what's your pain level, 0 to 10? And he would say 0. And I'd be like, that's only telling you on his left side. And his bed sores are on the right side. So you're not getting an accurate description. So under how to best support me, I can't feel pain on my right side. So we know that doctors and nurses are busy, but they also want to make sure their patients are, they reduce anxiety and make sure they're taken care of. So you can use a one-page description as part of the plan. It's always developed with the person. It can be used for any transition. So from early childhood to school or early childhood to daycare. Some parents write one every year and send it to school for all the teachers at the beginning of the school year. People give it to their new providers or when they go to day program. Some providers use it to orient staff. Here's the folder of all the people you're going to be working with, and the one pages are in there. Some families have used it to introduce their child to other family members. Here's a little bit about our son or daughter. So we want it to be human-centric. Do not put demographic information, not their disability, not their labels they have, not whether they have a guardian, not their age, just who are they as a person, what are their qualities, and what do people need to know in a quick snapshot, one page. So if you look at the second tool in the portfolio, it is a trajectory. And so it's a vision of a good life. So what do you want? What kind of life do you want for your loved one? And I love this. The future is not something we enter, it's something we create. And creating that future requires us to make choices and decisions that begin with a dream. So if you think about it, I wanted to be a speech pathologist. That meant I had to get my master's. I talked about that from the time I was in the 6th grade. I kept saying, I have to get a master's. I can only go to so many colleges who have a master's program. It determined where I applied, what colleges I looked at, and I also had to stay home because I had to take care of my brother Nick because my mother was a single mother. So all of my choices and decisions were guided by the fact that I wanted to be a speech language pathologist, but I had to stay home. So think about what is a good life for your loved one. And I want you to think about that. And I want you to, I'm going to ask you to come on line in a minute. But what is a good life? for any of us, a good life is that we have dreams. Because if we don't have dreams, all we get is what we're given. A good life is that we have people who believe in us. Think of the young man who said he wanted to be a pilot. His job coach took that and said, okay, let's see what we can do. A good life is that we have what's important to us, that we are respected, that we have more good days than bad, that we feel healthy and safe, and we have control. There's great power in writing down your dreams. I don't know if you know about Chris Nikich. He is the first person with Down syndrome to enter and successfully complete the Ironman competition. And he competed last November in Florida. So I don't know if you know what an Ironman is, but first they have to swim 2.4 miles in open water. So a lake, an ocean, and that takes they have 2 hours and 20 minutes to do that. They then have to get out of the water and ride their bicycle for 112 miles, which they have 8 hours to finish that. And then after they do that, they have to run for 26.22 miles, and they have 6.5 hours to do that. They have to complete all 3 of those in 16 to 17 hours, consecutive hours. So it is not a small dream. What I love about it, Chris's parents, is they had him write this on a whiteboard, and every day he wrote the goals that he had to meet to train for the Ironman. But here you see his dreams for his life. He wants to buy his own car, buy his own house, get a smoking hot blonde wife from Minnesota, have his own money to take care of his family, and be a famous public speaker. So I want you to think about, what is a good life for you, the person you love? And these are the themes: friends, family, money, a job they like. But I want you to think about the specifics. What does a good life look like? When we ask families, sometimes they give us the services or skills. I want them to walk. I want them to talk. I want them to get a waiver. I want them to, I don't know what. But what we really want is, what kind of life do you want them to have? So when I ask families, I typically hear, I want them to have friends. I want them to be able to live in their own place. I want them to have something meaningful to do during the day. That's the top box. But the bottom box is things I want to avoid. And when I ask families, the number one answer is, I don't want my loved one to be taken advantage of physically, emotionally, psychologically, sexually, just taken advantage of, or across all life aspects. When I ask people, young adults with disabilities, what's a good life, they tell me, number one, I want a girlfriend, a boyfriend, which makes them geniuses, because the number one human need is to be loved. I want a key to my own place. I want a job I like. What I don't want, number one answer is drama. And then I ask people, what does drama mean? And it can mean anything from, I don't want people bossing me around all day, to I don't want to be around the same people all day, or I don't want to be around noisy people all day. So we can't do the breakout rooms, but what I'd like you to do is write down, there's power in writing your vision. Psychological studies say that when we write down a vision or a goal, we are more likely to work towards it. So I want you to think about, what is your vision of a good life for your loved one, and what do you want to avoid? And because of the time, and because we are not going to do breakout rooms, I would like you to type it in the chat, and I'll come and look at it in a little bit. I'm going to keep talking about it. Please take some time and just type what I want, what I don't want for my loved one. We also have the trajectory you have that we'll send you, or you'll get, it's in the handouts, has the box of what I want, what I don't want. But then on the far right, we know the importance of having experiences. So if you think about me, I wanted to be a speech pathologist. Well, what were my past life experiences that led me towards that? Well, duh, my brother Nick. But what were the things in my past that maybe kept me from going towards that? Well, my parents separated, and my mother was a single mother when I knew no other people, no other friends that had parents that were separated. Okay. My mother separated when women did not get child support. And so my mother had no financial support coming in from my father. So that was going to take me towards what I didn't want, which is not being able to go to college. So in the middle, what did I have to do? How did I have to plan? Well, I worked hard in school. I applied for scholarships. My mother helped me get some grants. I had family and friends who believed in me and offered support if I needed it. So think about your own trajectory, but also think about your loved one. A lot of parents want their child to have friends. And if that's your outcome, what did you do in the past that helped them have friends? Did you expose them to different groups? Did you include them in activities where they could meet other kids? And then what do you need to do in the future? Or maybe they couldn't belong to groups because maybe they were medically fragile and they couldn't be around a lot of other people. And so we need to reflect on what did we do in the past? What do we need to do in the future?
Hey, Barbara.
Yes.
I'll go back to the last slide.
Sure.
I wanted to mention in this one example of a person that I had met. This mother was forward thinking. Her son was probably 4 with severe autism. And her desire for a good life for him was to have at least one good friend. And so when I met her, her son was then 26, and he was with his best friend that he's known almost all his life, who was also on the spectrum, but they have been friends for 24 years.
Wow.
And so what she did toward that goal was to find a friend, find another mother seeking the same good life for their son, and they became friends, and they have just helped promote that friendship through activities, time together. So I actually met them at an autism conference when I heard the story, and I just thought, wow, if we could just find one friend, that's just one way someone could have used this trajectory.
Awesome. And there's a note in the chat, and I thank you for your note of, oh gosh, I'm going to go back and look at it now because I can't do it justice. To have a good,
you want me to look?
My son to
do you want me to look for it?
No, I've got it. I want my
Okay.
son to have a good job and be able to live on his own with support. However, he has no motivation and will not share his dreams because he knows they won't come true. And that is so sad. That is so sad, because we say that it's not just sharing your dreams, but it's having people who then will believe in you and help you move towards them. So I don't know. That's not an easy, I can't give you an easy fix, but what experiences can he have, or opportunities to see what it's like to have money and be able to spend it? Because that's how we all learned the power of a job and was getting that first job and having, whether that job was babysitting or whatever, but having that money to be able to spend the way we wanted. So I'm going to keep moving, but just think about the pandemic. Our life trajectory all went down towards what we didn't want. None of us said last February, gee, I wish there was a worldwide pandemic and I could stay home and work from home and not have a mask and not be able to get one for the first month and Gee, that would be so much fun. I just think it would be great. But we all had our life go down towards what we don't want. And think about what you had to do to adjust. So it's not that your life is going to go straight up towards the good life, but that when it goes down towards what we don't want, how do we get back up on that trajectory? And think about what you did. Did you start ordering your groceries online? Did you do a pickup? Did you do delivery? Did you even know what Zoom was? And I still know that people don't know how to unmute and mute. So it's been a year. The learning curve is, we're still all struggling with it. But what we want to see with the trajectory is it could be done in many ways. Here's a group of people who did their trajectory using cutouts out of magazines, pictures, they drew, and they wrote. Here's a group that did a collective trajectory by putting one thing per Post-it note. And then we put a big, we had a big 6-foot long trajectory, and they put them up on the wall. And we use this to show a county board what people they served really want in their life and what they don't want. So let's talk about the domains. We've all heard skill areas. Oh gosh, who knows the language anymore, that we've changed the words so often. But in charting the life course, we talk about quality of life domains. This is the way we talk to people when we meet them. We don't say, hi, did you get up this morning and deal with your grooming and hygiene? Did you take a shower? Did you brush your teeth? Do you know how to manage your money? When we meet somebody, the first thing we say is, hey, what do you do? Right? Fess up, you know you do. And then you ask, where do you live? All right. And if they live somewhere you're familiar, do you know my friends who also live there? You'll talk about healthy living. Do you exercise? Do you go to a gym? I walk in the parks over there. You might ask, do you feel safe? Is that a safe neighborhood? How do you feel about that? And they'll share what they do, oh, I belong to this, or I coach my son's team, or whatever. So these are quality of life domains. They're all interrelated. But let's look at them. There's one of you that has somebody in early childhood still. But families, family members of young kids go, what are you talking about employment? My kid is 3. But think about it. At 3, are you teaching your child how to make choices? Are you giving them opportunities to make choices? Even if it's, do you want to wear the red shirt or the blue shirt? You're giving them control, and make sure they're shirts you're okay with, So, or do you want the orange juice or the apple juice, or the carrot or the celery? I don't know. And do you allow them to make mistakes? Think about the toys that little kids play with, the blocks that you have to put in shapes. It's not just a toy to spend time. It teaches kids, I made a mistake. This block doesn't fit in this shape. I got to try something else. Try it somewhere else. So are we giving kids the opportunity to make mistakes? Are we giving them chores? That's your first job. Pick up your sippy cup, put it on the counter, put your pajamas in the hamper, whatever it is, put your toys back on the shelf. And then looking at technology. For school age, for you as a family, are you looking for the least restrictive environment? Are you providing the child with time and opportunities to spend with other kids? Are you looking at assistive technology? Do they have technology if they need to converse that they can use to interact with somebody else? And ask them, as we do any child, what do you want to do when you grow up? Why? Because what do you do if somebody says, I want to be a ballerina? You enroll them in ballet class and see if they like it, right? And if they don't, you've given them the opportunity, they don't like it. And then are you building routines at home so that when they come home from school, there's a routine. There's a routine before bedtime. For transition age, are you giving them work and volunteer opportunities? I our church before the pandemic had a festival and fish fries and all sorts of things. And I can't tell you how many families would be like, Barb, can they volunteer at the fish fry? Because they need hours for school. Well, of course they can. You know, are you looking for opportunities? I remember one dad, he said, my son is going to be the runner. I would take the orders for the fish fry and he ran them to the kitchen. And he goes, my son is going to be a runner. And his son is on the spectrum. And he couldn't greet people and say, hi, how are you? But he could run those tickets. And sometimes he ran them so fast, I'd be like, could you bring it back? They changed their mind. But that was a volunteer opportunity for him. Are we teaching people life skills at home? And as adults, are we helping them identify their interests? Maybe they can set up a micro enterprise. And are we talking about, you can't have the life you want unless you earn money? Because if you want to do things, you need money. So social and spirituality, this is another area. You know, I want them to have friends. I want them to, you know, I know from my experience working for a county board for 36 years, that the people who succeeded at jobs were people who had good social skills and other people liked them because they would overlook some quirks, okay, because they were nice people and they got along. So at the prenatal or infancy, are we teaching them how to play? That's their work. Are we taking them to social events with the family? Nick always went with us. I mean, what were we going to do? There were 3 of us. It was like, everybody goes. And my mother never drove, so we all went. Early childhood, are we teaching them social skills? Think about it. What's the first social skill we teach every child? Please and thank you. Even babies, when you give them a gift, their mother's right there. Say thank you. And the baby goes, oh, that's wonderful. We do that. Are we doing that with our kids who have disabilities? Are we setting up play dates? I know a lot of families who they set up the play dates. They don't wait for somebody else. They become the scout leader because that way they're pulling the kids into their circle. Are we teaching them how to take turns? Are we looking at adaptive rec devices? And are we looking for child groups that they can be part of? School age, are we looking for after school opportunities? Are we teaching them about sex and relationships and boundaries? Don't touch. Are we looking for welcoming faith communities? You know, a lot of families still want their kids to take their first communion, have a bat mitzvah or a bas mitzvah. Those markers are important to them as a family. So how can we help them? For transition, are we helping people maintain their relationships? I can't tell you how many young adults I've met in their 20s and I ask them, do you have a best friend? Yes. Do you talk to them? I don't know where they are. And they'll be talking about somebody they knew in school and have no idea where they are now because that opportunity of seeing them at school was the only time they saw them. And then are we teaching kids, are we letting kids take risks? Think about when you got an allowance. You were told this money has to last you a week. If you spent it your first day, tough luck. You wanted something on Thursday, you had to wait till Saturday when you got your allowance for the next week. And then adulthood. How are we giving people opportunities to meet people and form new relationships and learn about money? The other area is community living, and I'm going to go through this fast because I'm looking at our time. But are we teaching kids, young kids at school? Young kids. Are we teaching kids who are in infancy? Are we structuring our home so that they can participate in typical activities that young children participate in? Do we need to make adaptations to our home? You know, Nick unfortunately grew up in a time when adaptations were not easily available unless you knew a carpenter. I mean, they just weren't there, trust me. Are we helping people get out and about and explore their neighborhood? You know, we teach kids how to ride bikes so they can get out and explore and be with other kids. For school age, are we addressing their sensory needs? Are we having them participate in a carpool? Not because we don't want to drive, but that's a natural way to be around other people and to make some other connections. And are we teaching them what to do around the house? I mean, I remember I was cleaning very young, and Nick couldn't do a lot physically, but we didn't have a car. And my mother was a single mother. We lived about a mile from the grocery store. And so my mother, Jim, and I would always pick up groceries either on our way from school or from work. But if we needed heavy stuff and the weather was nice, we would tell Nick, you're going to the grocery store with us, because he had a wheelchair, not a power chair at the time, but he had wheels. So it was like, we need milk and juice. You're going to the grocery store and we're putting the bags on your chair. Now, we were not stupid. We never gave him eggs. And then under transition, are we talking about where do you want to live? What, you know, do you want to live in the city? Do you want to live in your own place? Do you want to live with somebody? And are we teaching people how to get around? So one mother was looking at, she has two adult sons with disabilities, and in their 20s, she was looking at them living in their own home and not to live far from her and her husband, because her one son could ride his bike and he knew how to get to the community center, to the grocery store, to the drugstore to get his, you know, snacks and treats. And what else did he? Oh, the pool. And so she wanted to make sure that they lived where in that area. So, because he knew how to get to all those places. He knew how to cross the street, you know, and to get across the street to the community center. And then as adulthoods, are we talking about where are you going to live? Are you going to live here? You're going to move out. And I will tell you, most adults I worked with did not, you know, we probably talked about moving out at 18 or before. Usually I didn't hear adults talking about that till their late 20s. And then they were kind of looking like, why do I have to live with mom and dad? And if they move out, what supports will they need? And I love that somebody in the chat wrote, I want my son, I think it was my son, to live in his own place with the help that he needs. Okay? And if you want your son to have independent living skills, I want you to think about what that looks like. What does that look like? Because none of us is independent. So think about what it is that they can do and what they will need help with. As opposed to, I had one mother say, after I talked about being independent, I was doing a series with these families. And the second time we met, she goes, Barb, I have to tell you, my son never speaks up at his IEP meeting because his teachers tell him you need to be independent. And so he just shuts down. And when my husband and I talk to him, he shuts down. He won't talk at his IEP. He won't tell us what he wants. And she said, after I attended the session with you, I talked to my husband and we talked to our son and we said, you know, we've been telling you you need to be independent. None of us is independent. You don't have to be independent. And she said, all of a sudden he looked at her and he started telling her what he wanted. And I thought, what a terrible thing we've done to people. We've put this heavy weight on their shoulders. We can't define it, and yet none of us are independent. When I retired, I decided I wasn't going to clean my house anymore. I had cleaned house as being the only girl since I was probably 10. And I got a cleaning lady. And my mother was mortified. I don't want to clean my house. I don't like it. Okay. That's my treat. Some people do other things. I'll pay somebody to come and clean. Now that doesn't mean I don't do stuff, but you know, I don't like it. So here's a vision tool. And this is part of the handouts that you'll get. But it gives you the domains and it gives you things to think about. You can do it from the parent perspective, but also you can have conversations with your son or daughter and write down what they say. And the beauty of this is you get the perspective from multiple perspectives and people can think about it. And then you could say, boy, we agree on this. Let's work on that. Or we have difference of opinion here. Let's see why there's a difference. Let's talk it out. So think about that trajectory. There's a trajectory that we go on the bottom below the line through the service system. And there's a trajectory of life above the line. And I'm going to keep moving. You'll also get the link or this booklet. And the beauty of this booklet is when you open it up, this is daily life and employment. And you see that every life domain from prenatal and infancy to aging has a column. And in that column are things to consider. What should I be thinking of? So for those of you that have 15 to 21-year-olds, they're in transition. Look at that transition column, but also look at the school age column. Did we think about all these things in school age? Look at the life stage you're in, the life stage before, and also look at the next life stage, which is adulthood. And that's called anticipatory guidance. You all did not think about what you were going to do after high school the day you graduated. You were thinking about it maybe years ahead. That's anticipatory guidance. And we need to not just look at where we are, but where our loved ones go next and start thinking about that and preparing for it. You can also go to lifecoursentools.com and look for these quick guides. There are 4 pages. They're by life stage, and each of those 6 life domains is defined for that life stage. So you can find them on lifecoursentools.com. Look at the click on library, and then explore life stages. So we want the family to do a trajectory on their own at home. It should never be done in a meeting. Never, never. Because this takes thought. You're putting yourself out there, and we want you to do it when you have time and comfort and can have that conversation with others. And then share it with your team and ask them, how can you help us move towards our vision of a good life? The last tool is called an integrated star. And in the middle, you would put whatever your outcome is. So let's think about having friends, meeting friends. You also can do a split star. What's current and what do we need to work on in the future? So let me take you. We always start with personal strengths. So if somebody wants friends, what strengths might they have? Maybe they're sociable, maybe they're respectful, maybe they have manners. Maybe we need to work on something, having a conversation, or being prepared for the situation, preparing people. Relationships, who do they know that can connect them with other people? You know, if they're a child, is the neighbor the scout leader, or are they a coach that can kind of provide that extra support to them so they can meet new people? Or do you have a family member? You know, I always remember as a sibling, if I went out and played, Nick went out and played. So friends came over, it was like a package deal. You know? So he met friends through Gemini, because we grew up in a neighborhood that was lots of kids the same age. So we were all at each other's homes. Technology, if they want to meet new people, do they know how to use social media? Do they know how to use email? Do they need a communication device to have a conversation? I don't know. Do they need to use an electric toothbrush so they don't have bad breath and people go, oh, I don't want to talk to him, he smells. And I say that jokingly, but I can't tell you how many people we had to say to them, if you want a girlfriend, you got to brush your teeth because your mouth smells. You have bad breath, and that's not socially acceptable. Community resources, what's out there? Are there play groups? Are there rec programs? Are there dance schools? Are there things in our faith-based community? And then what are the eligibility specific? 5 minutes, thank you, supports. So when you use the integrated STAR, you've already talked about who this person is that you love. You've identified a good life. And now you use the STAR to problem solve. How are we going to move towards that good life? Let's pick one aspect. And it could be something very short term, doing something during the summer. And then what are the resources that we can consider that might support us, both current and maybe future? Maybe we need to find out what the rec programs are in our area. So use the integrated STAR to brainstorm. This is done well in a team. If you go in and say, this is our outcome, how can you help us? The team might be able to come up with some resources, both paid and unpaid. So if you want to know if your loved one has a good quality of life, are the services helping them move towards that good life? Are they keeping people away from the life they don't want? And if the trajectory takes a dip, are you getting help to get back online? So think about, do you know the people's gifts? Do you know what a good life is? Do you know what's important to them? And are we helping them have the life they value and share their gifts? So remember the person in the context of the family. Look at the 6 domains, quality of life domains, the 3 buckets of support, and then the 5 areas of integrated supports. A trajectory across the lifespan. And just to wrap up, we are having an Ohio showcase. It's virtual on June 3rd and 4th. You need to register on frnohio.org. It is free. Did I say that? It's free. And our keynote speaker will be Dr. Shelley Reynolds, under whose leadership Charting the Life course was developed. If you know of any other group, maybe teachers or maybe your county board or I don't know, any group, that a parent group, a group of advocates that would like more information about Charting the Life course, you can contact me, or you can go to frnohio.org and request training or information. LifeCourseTools.com and the websites for the department, the DD Council, and the FRN. So I will, if you are thinking, I want to use this, please type it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. What did you think about the information? Anybody? And are you thinking you might use something? My clock says we have 4 minutes. Oops.
Well, I'm sure we can stay on longer for those who really want to do a Q&A, but.
So I'm one of those people that writes the big plans. So thank God we're not in the same room together where you can throw things at me.
No, you have to. That's your job.
Right. I do really like the 1-page things, and I really like the thing for the hospital that you did. That was a really good idea. We have like, we call them cover pages, but they're usually filled with pictures and things. And I think maybe what I take away is just doing the 2s and the 4s and just kind of listing those out. And I think that it's a really good 1-page trajectory or you know, what to really know if they didn't read the rest of the plan. Because we kind of joke about that with some providers, like, oh, they don't really read the plan. I think that's a really good thing that I'm going to take away today.
Oh, good, good. And think about writing the how to best support me in what that person needs to do, because we assume providers will know this person is on the spectrum and they're like, so what am I supposed to do? You know, as opposed to prepare them, help them come up with some questions to ask for conversation. Or if you see the glazed look, pull them aside and talk to them privately. You know, that's more functional than they're on the spectrum. Okay, that's nice. So,
we had someone who said, if we want to use you, meaning you, Barbara, do you take waiver? Would you need to be added to, I don't know how to master making this Q&A.
If we want to use you, do you take waiver? Would you need to be added to ISP?
If what? Say it again.
If we want to use you, do you take waiver? Would you need to be added to ISP?
If you wanted to use me for what?
I'm not really sure.
To help
Susan?
you, to coach you as a family or a professional? Susan? Susan?
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. To like, you know, get the plan and help to help us to implement it. You know, here's what, you know, if we can get, this is what you want to do, you know, you help with, okay, now these are the steps we need to do to help you to get where you want to be, you know, to fill out all these, you know, yeah, to kind of guide and
So you're talking as a family member, you'd like to maybe have some support to use the tools?
yes.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, he's the one who has no motivation.
Yeah.
He won't tell me what he wants to do. He's very smart.
My email is on the front of the on the front, but I'm not gonna type it in the chat. Just email me, okay?
Okay.
And I can guide you, I can coach you. And that would, I think I can do that through the grant. Susan, where are you geographically?
Groveport.
Okay, we could do this by phone or Zoom. Thank you, Susan, for the question. Anybody else?
Someone said they love the presentation. When things new, break down in such a way they seem easier to be attained.
Ah, okay.
You know, Barbara, you and I talked this morning. You know, our children, our job as parents is to help them prepare for the transition of life. We start from the moment, you know, they can understand. So why is it different for our children with disabilities? It's really not. I mean, maybe the things that can be done need to be done differently or may take time. But, you know, I know a father had mentioned about wanting to work on independent living skills now, which is great. The sooner the better. And they can come in the form of chores, learning to wait your turn, or set the table, basic things that will give them skills that they can accomplish so that they can work on that. So the sooner the better. That's why we wanted this focus on early childhood, because we really think people probably should start with people in preschool. You know, the sooner the better. You learn the language and you get more empowered as a parent to say, no, this is the direction, the hope that we have, the vision we have for our son. And as they get older, then they can put in their input on what they value as a good life.
Absolutely, Deb. And the other thing about independent living skills, and I'm assuming that means stuff you do around the house. It's easier to learn that in the context of your family home because it could be a routine. And so it's not like, let's teach you how to set the table or let's teach you how to cook an egg. It's breakfast. You want an egg? Come here. You're going to make it now. And doing it contextually in the environment is a much more powerful learning strategy than trying to teach someone outside of that routine and environment. So I had a sister whose brother-in-law, her mother-in-law passed away, her brother-in-law lived with her mother-in-law. And all of a sudden she got a call from West Virginia, your brother-in-law, your mother-in-law died, your brother-in-law is here all alone, you got to come get him. And she and her husband went and got him. And she goes, Barb, I want him to learn how to do laundry. And I said, so what are you doing? And she goes, well, I have him carry his clothes, put it in the washing machine. I said, well, you're teaching him. You're doing it. And you're doing it in the context of, these are my dirty clothes and they got to be clean. This is how I'm going to clean them. And I said, continue doing that. Please don't. She goes, well, I want to find an independent living skills class. I said, you're doing it in the environment. That's where it should be done so that there's meaning and immediate reinforcement. He gets his clean clothes. So also think about doing that. You know, a kid can load a washing machine.
Well, also, I think a lot of time parents are waiting till the age of 14, which in Ohio is the age to start transitioning. That is way too late.
Yeah.
You know, you already have stress with your child and what's going on. Why not start it sooner so that you are prepared for that when that happens? So the transition really should start a lot earlier. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. And now, you know, things like laundry, I have to laugh because they're like, oh, they'll overload it. But you're there. You're going to guide them. And the pods now, there's no judgment of how much detergent you need. You get a pod. So, you know, just looking at, and it's the same as people get older and they may be losing some judgment skills. Teaching things in routine at the time it's needed.
Anand, what do you think about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to thank both of you. You know, as I was listening through the different tools, you know, sometimes some of those decisions are actions that a parent wants to take. Probably myself is more just in time, but this tool gives, you know, as the quote went, right, the future is something that we create and not just enter. So I feel, you know, so so empowered right now that I can think about my son and how to chart his life course. So I thank you so much, both of you, for this. I really love this. In fact, my son currently, I'm hoping that he will get to that level, but currently he is mostly nonverbal, very musical. You know, he hums, and you know, any songs that he likes, he's able to catch the tune and hum. He doesn't understand language yet. He cannot read, but however, though, I mean, when I saw those pictures, it was really sinking into me, because this year we decided, since he cannot read, we decided we will put some of the pictures as his vision board, and so that he can, and so we put all of his favorite activities. Like, he loves swimming, so we put his the swimming picture that we took him in the pool, horseback riding, and so on. So now I could see that, you know, sometimes once he comes down, get ready, and comes down to the living room, he goes and stares at that swimming picture, and we knew, you know, kind of reinforcing that, so he's also started communicating through that, saying, you know, and he would really closely look at that picture, going very, very close, which he never does it for other things. So so I really love this, and I really wanted to thank you both. Looking forward to, and I'll start working towards putting some details around it, and and really wanted to use this tool. Thank you so much, Barb, and thank you so much, Deb.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you for sharing your story. And just hold on one second. As you were talking about that, I don't know if your son likes tablets, but if you're trying to teach him something, videotaping him doing it, and even if you're guiding him, whatever it is that you're trying, and then having him watch himself on the video doing it, and then doing it, you know, might be, since he's a visual, he likes visual and he likes the photographs. I've used that with people, and it's been versus us going, do this, pick it up, do that, you know, videotaping him doing it, because then he's watching himself and he's following himself. So there's, that's another way. Maybe it might work, it might not. Or if he likes pictures, just.
Oh, no. Great idea. Great idea. So far, I have only taken his videos, small clip videos when he's swimming, so that I kind of show him how he does. Recently, after like I would say probably 4 years, he has been I have been taking him more 4 to 5 years. I've been taking him to swim lessons. Now he's not going to learn the exact stroke and so on, but I know that he's super interested in playing in water. I said, like, okay, why don't I, hoping that it would build into a kind of a life-saving skill, if the need be, right?
Yeah.
The need arise. And then after 4 years now, 4 or 5 years now, his swim coaches continuously was trying to make him swim and try to get his face underwater, head underwater. So they were not able. But in the last few weeks, suddenly he just dropped in and then put his head under the water and then come back up. Now he started doing that as an activity. So I feel like, when I started, I didn't really make a chart or something like that. But when we have that vision, I think, and with consistent efforts and guidance and coaching, I think we can make our loved ones, achieve those, even if it is a small step. I think we can together make them achieve. So thank you for that. And I'll take that idea, Barb, and try to videotape him doing, because he does do other activities too. But I never thought about that idea. But thanks for that idea. I'll try that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Deb, you were saying something.
Anand is the gentleman that we're hoping to help put Charting the Life course tools to our families in church. Yay. So I haven't forgotten you, Anand. We're going to do it. I have a question for Susan. You said your son is the one that's not motivated to work. Can't remember if she was
Right.
there.
Yes.
Okay. One thing I'm learning a lot about is what do they call that? Customized employment.
Oh, yeah.
And so you can use the Charting the Life course tools to talk about what he likes to do, where his talents are, and then create almost a customized employment based on those skills that he can do. And if you want to talk about it more, I'll put my phone number and email back on the chat, because, we all want to work where we like, so like Anand's son loves music. Well, he may want to do something near music, whether music store or helping the band, with whatever, cleaning instruments, whatever. And so, we all want to work where we're interested. So half the battle is finding out what he's interested in. And you probably know him so well that you could probably think about 3 or 4 things, right? And so maybe you and I can talk about that.
Yeah, we had tried. He's had some disappointments. He'd gone to Columbus State and had some social issues there and got suspended for a year, and did go back a little bit. And then he was cleaning at night, but he was in the van for an hour and a half going there, working for 4 hours, then in the van for an hour and a half coming home because it was the first one to be picked up and the last one to be dropped off. And, he did, there were some other lower functioning people on the van who talked. And, he didn't like that, I'm gone and I'm in this van for the same amount of time that I'm working. So then when COVID started, they had stopped and he decided not to go
Yeah.
back.
Well, let's try to figure out what might be
He
a more
doesn't know
fun
what to
plan.
do. He's not motivated, and he's the one that's got the 3-year-old daughter too. So I've got working with him, and then his my granddaughter who's just starting the preschool next year, and
Yeah, you've got your hands full.
Wow.
Yeah. Luckily I'm retired, so it's like.
Well, I need to mind our time now. I wanted to let everyone know, if you haven't already received it, we will be sending the PowerPoint, the handouts from Barbara after this meeting. Please fill out the survey that helps us to offer good programming like this and how to improve. And again, I highly recommend this program. I'm 63 years old. And my brother didn't have access to this, neither did Nick with Barbara. And gosh, it changed the paradigm in my mind on how we can best love and serve the people that we care about and empower them for a good life. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Barbara. Thank you so much. Always a joy to work with you. And have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you,
Take care.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.